Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's I Quit My Band. How we doing?
I'm doing good.
Good, man.
Yeah, it's a Saturday episode. This is our second episode, or I think it's the first episode, actually, of 2025.
First public episode.
The
First.
Well, the first one that we recorded in 2025. The Disappointing came out last week.
Disappointing came out last
yes.
week. Yeah, that's true. But the first, it's our second recording. There's going to be a bonus that's coming out this week of our good pal Bobcat Ron came on the show, so
Yeah.
be ready for that.
Kind of a regional legend, if you will, in the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah.
He's a
He's a figurehead.
He fronts a tribute act for AC/DC, and he does a really cool thing where he sings Bon Scott songs in the style of Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
And Brian Johnson's songs in the style of Bon Scott. He's a talented individual.
They call it the old switcheroo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's able to do it seamlessly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I just kind of want to start off by saying, first, I want to thank Bobcat Ron for coming on to the show.
I know he's got a
for the
full
Patreon
schedule. We would have him on again today, but he's at the indoor rib fest that he was talking
Yes.
out in
about.
Hollidaysburg.
Yeah.
And I would also like to distance myself from everything that came out of his mouth on the Patreon episode as well.
Just some horrible, terrible things.
Yeah,
that
he's
he
got kind of
said.
that old school rocker mentality. He hasn't
Yeah.
really caught up with the times.
No,
so.
he does. He said he told us he didn't know what TikTok was.
No.
He
Yeah.
never heard of he didn't even know who Incubus was as
Or
a
Sleep
band or
Token.
Sleep Token.
Yeah.
He was really
Called
offended.
it all Cry Fest.
Yeah, Cry Fest. He was very offended that we did not introduce him fast enough on the
Yeah,
show.
that was also a bone of contention that kind of palled the whole episode, if I have to be honest.
It was
There was
kind
a
of the
bit of-
first thing that happened.
Yeah. There was a bit of tension because of that the whole time.
A little bit of tension the whole time, but it was a great time. We
Yeah.
thank him for being on the show. Go subscribe to our Patreon page. $5. You'll be able to see the full Bobcat Ron episode. Let me tell you, folks, you're going to want to see that episode.
Yeah.
Because
We-
there's a
we-
reason
well-
it's not on YouTube.
Yeah, and we review Back in Black.
Yeah, we talk about Back in Black in full.
So if
This-
you're a big Back in Black head,
Yeah.
you know,
The
you're
score
gonna get-
may shock you.
The score may shock you.
I'm
yeah.
just going to leave it there.
Yeah, so essentially what's going on this week is, it's the beginning of 2025. There's really nothing coming out yet.
Yeah.
There's not many songs or albums that are, like, getting us going yet or maybe even would interest people that watch this show. So we're doing Classics Week. We started off with
Classics
Back in Black.
Month.
Classics month, probably,
Yeah.
We start off with Back in Black with Bobcat Ron. Now we're going down the list. We're going to do even more classic. Paranoid, Black Sabbath, JJ, one of JJ's favorite records of all time. I mean, one of mine as well.
Yeah. It's literally etched into my skin.
JJ has his Paranoid tattoo.
I do. I have the guy from the cover. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. This is my wheelhouse, boys. So,
Yeah. Give us your. Why don't you kick it off? Tell us how much Paranoid means to you.
I mean, Paranoid is like the heavy album to the granddaddy of them all per se. It really to me it like inspired like any type of heavy music that you hear now, like riffs and shit like that. I mean, Ozzy in general as a figure of dark, twisted, whatever kind of music you want to say.
Dark and twisted.
All
All things dark
all
and
things
twisted.
dark and twisted. Ozzy is like that figure. Singing over heavy stuff has always been like where Sabbath, people diverge and they either go more or less. You know what I'm saying? And,
like more melodic or
yeah.
more like screaming.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't think I don't think the world had heard anything quite that dark before Sabbath. People have touched on it, like Helter Skelter or whatever, but it's really the first commercially successful dose that everyone got of
Dose.
Dose, yeah, dude. Those dudes were dosing.
Dose on the dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a copy of Paranoid, I think when I was either 10 or 11. I was at Big Lots with my mom, and they had like CDs for $5.99.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, this one has Iron Man on it.
Yes.
And then I took it home, and I was like, is this their greatest hits? Because every song rules. I
Yeah.
know what most of these songs are. And yeah, from that time on, I was obsessed with this album. And Black Sabbath is a band that I've lost my taste for a lot of like the classic rock stuff that I grew up with. as I got older, got more into like punk and alternative rock. But like Black Sabbath is one of the ones that I'm still like, that was sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think they're kind of the best representation of what early rock bands were, which were 4 unique musicians able to create a sound with like their like idiosyncrasies in their playing.
Yes.
You know, you didn't have the production and you know, a lot of these people were going into a recording studio for the first time. There wasn't the technology that we have today. So it's like the only thing that could make your music stand out was your playing. And you know, you have Bill Ward, who is like just absolutely banging the shit out of the tubs, Phil Master, Geezer, who is like just his grooves on the bass are unbelievable. Tony Iommi, who who was riffing like that in 1969 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Ozzy, who like, you know, he's become such a caricature in like pop culture.
Yes.
But you listen to his voice on these albums, and it's just like, who could have sang over this shit better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with everything you just said. I had a similar trajectory. Also, when you were talking about Bill Ward and you said Phil Master, I was like, who's Phil Master? I was like, I don't remember him being
The second guitarist, Phil Master.
Phil Master. But yeah, it's interesting because like we just did Back in Black, we just reviewed Back in Black, and now we're doing Paranoid, and that's kind of how like when I started as like a young guitar player, it went for me. I was like, SGs are cool because of Angus Young, and then you know your guitar teacher is like, listen to Paranoid, and then like the song Paranoid, and then you're like, okay, SGs are actually cool because of Tony Iommi, and I like it's, you know, it's like the darker side of AC/DC and what rock can be at the time when you're starting out playing guitar. Like I remember I would watch fucking VH1 Classic all the time. I knew what song Paranoid was. You know, my guitar teacher, I wanted him to teach it to me, and then he was like, go buy the Black Sabbath album with the woman on the cover of it. And I remember being like excited to go to FYE or whatever to buy that, and I couldn't find that one, but I found Paranoid, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this was the one to buy, you know? And I did become obsessed with this album for a while. I remember like I would like bring it with me to places, like the CD. Like if we were going to like Applebee's, I'd like gotta bring Paranoid with it. Like I was like so I loved it.
You
so
never know
much.
when you're gonna run into.
You never know when you're gonna have to be like,
signature.
I know like, you know.
I think, but that makes so much sense to me because
Yes.
like we, you know, our age is like one of the last eras of like physical media like
Yeah.
that,
Yes.
where it's like, this is the only way that I can tell people
I can tell
I'm
people-
cool and different.
Yeah, and I was like, what, just 10 years old, and I would just be like, this is like I would like bring it to bed with me. I was fucking obsessed with it. You know, I feel like it's really, you know, the time where I wanted to like start writing songs, because it was just such a weird hodgepodge, like you said, of just like AC/DC feels so concise and like in a pocket, where these songs are just so all over the place. Like you start one place in a song and you don't really know where it's going to end up or end. Like Hand of Doom, like if you don't listen past a certain point, you don't know what that song
This is
sounds
kind of
like.
a chill vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, just listening to the tones on this record and Ozzy's voice. Ozzy is like this like parody, you know, character in today's pop culture, and like this kind of like goth figure.
Yeah.
But like back then, Paranoid, like he was just a dude, and like they were all just dudes, you know. And he just had an incredible voice, creepy lyrics. People probably didn't even know why his voice was creepy at the time. It was just like something about this is unsettling.
Well, they discovered the tritone in the song Black Sabbath. Like,
Yeah.
They were like, that's the scariest thing I've
Yes.
ever heard.
Yeah. And then, you know, this album and that band like inspired an entire genre pretty much.
Yeah.
created it with their first album.
Created well, many genres, because I was going to say stoner metal.
Yeah.
Like bands that like come out today that are heavy, like basically just sound like Sabbath.
Yeah, with updated amp
Yeah, it's
technology.
just like, I got a pedal that was just built this year, and that kind of what sets us apart from
Yeah, I'm
everyone
playing
else.
basically the exact
I'm playing the
riff.
same shit.
Being a part of that type of world, because
Yeah,
like my
you
my
do.
band is a stoner band for all intents and purposes. I'm proud of how not derivative it is and how much people own it, because like literally there's like stoner bands that are just naming songs like like I don't know what, like they just naming them Sabbath shit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
the-
yeah.
right, just-
Well, Electric Wizard. is
Electric
like-
Wizard, yeah, there you
Electric
go.
Wizard. Yeah, that's
It's like
the biggest
literally
example.
just wearing it on your sleeves. Like
Yeah.
there's other like deviations where people try to be slick and hide it, but stoner bands are just like, yeah, Sabbath is the sickest band that ever existed, and I'm just trying to be one smidge that cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What our band presupposes is, what if there were more sick Black Sabbath records?
Yeah, what if they kept going?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's that's hilarious. What was I gonna say? Yeah, it's funny. Like Black Sabbath is like, for me, Black Sabbath ended with Ozzy. We don't even have to get into this
Yeah,
conversation.
The first six.
But
That's
like,
it.
yeah, I will not listen to anything Dio.
No.
And they've had like many other records with a singer named
Gillan?
like there was Ian Gillan, and there's a guy that no one knows about. His name's like Tony something. I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Oh
his
yeah,
last
yeah.
name.
Like in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
or something like
he
that.
put out like more Sabbath records than with
Than
Ozzy.
all of them,
yeah.
But yeah,
I think
Ozzy-
Tony was the only guy that was in like all of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was the like the core member.
He's the boss of the band. I read Geezer Butler's like book. It's so good, by the way. Highly recommend it. But he kind of goes through the entire thing from beginning to end. And yeah, I mean, everybody left the band at some point,
Yeah.
except Tony. And because it's like he was the guy that started it. He's the guy that brought everything together. Them as a band, they came from like, whereas the Beatles came from Liverpool, and Liverpool is like
A little more posh.
a little bit more
Yeah.
posh. They came from Birmingham or something like that, and that's like the coal miners and the
Oh,
dirty
yeah.
factory.
I mean,
work
Tony
and
Iommi
shit.
cut his fucking
cut his
fingertips
fingers
off
off,
in a
yeah.
factory.
and
Yeah.
he melded bottle caps to his fingers
Yeah.
to play guitar.
So we got
Unreal.
that
So
tone,
cool.
dude.
Yeah, I remember a kid, just being a kid, being like, I gotta cut off my fingers.
Exactly. When I couldn't play the Iron Man riff,
Yeah,
right, I was like, "There's only one
There's
way."
only one way. Just fucking melding like
Yeah.
Coca-Cola caps to your fucking fingers. Um,
Oh shit.
But yeah, Tony Martin was the singer. But
Yeah.
yeah, the two Tonys.
Two
Yeah,
Tonys,
That's
yeah.
what they call. That's what they were gonna
I mean-
call the band.
Yeah. After
Yeah.
the sixth record,
Yeah.
we're done.
Yeah, Black Sabbath is what I wanted to say before. It's the only band. If like someone was going to tell me at this point in time, like, what's your favorite band, and they said Black Sabbath, I would still be like, okay, respectable. I believe that.
Yeah.
If you said like Zeppelin or AC/DC or whatever, I'm like, really?
Grow up.
Yeah.
How about that? You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
there is just something about Black Sabbath where it's that, like, they were that sick.
Yeah,
You know what
they
I
were
mean?
that sick.
And that, how pure that, like, creation of the music is. Like, talking about just, like, four musicians coming together, creating a sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like, revolutionary compared to what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
Revolutionary. Let's get into it. What do you say, fellas?
Let's do it,
It's IQMB Classics Week. Here we go.
dude.
I mean, come the fuck on, dude.
Listen to the bass.
He's walking that thing
I
up
know.
and down the street, dude.
Sounds like rubber bands.
It
somehow.
does.
Like it's so huge.
It's very round.
yeah.
And one
yeah.
thing that I was thinking that listening to this today, because like I love a fuzzed out bass tone.
Yes, me too.
But you lose this.
Yeah.
You couldn't. I don't know if you could play like Geezer with like a fuzz war on it and it still have the same
Yeah.
kind
No.
of.
And he's not picking that shit either. He's like plucking
yeah.
that with his fingies.
Yeah, the natural. It is weird how like bass tones evolved. Like everyone's now is like, I want a fucking huge, heavy,
it out.
distorted bass tone. It's like Geezer Butler. If he's your blueprint, he wanted no part of that.
No.
You know, he was just knew how to be fucking sick without anything on, like just au natural.
He even alluded to that when in his book he was like, there's a lot of shit going on now where dudes are trying to over-engineer the thing. Just play good.
Just play it.
and you'll
yeah.
be good.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And you got fucking Ozzy here, dude. God, this reminds me of college. Just like, isn't War Pigs sick?
The sickest song
Just
maybe
chilling
ever.
with your buds in a dorm room. Yeah.
We covered that. We did a Black Sabbath cover set 2 Halloweens ago, and this was one of the songs. It felt so cool because we got them to do the hurricane siren to start it, and then we just bang right into it.
So sick.
So cool. I've never felt cooler in my life.
I used to, so in the band I was in, when we used to do like these, essentially rib fest shows, or like whatever, just shows that didn't matter at all,
Yeah.
where we'd have to like put covers in. I would make our drummer get up from the set, and I would play the drums to War Pigs.
Oh,
and I thought it was so cool that I could like do it. And then I remember seeing like a video of myself doing it. I didn't play any of the fill. Like I was just like
The most iconic fills on earth.
yeah, I'm just like
Yeah.
like just the whole time just doing a regular beat right through it, just
One of
missing
the
the
more
whole part.
air drummable songs
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
of all time.
I mean, it's a great song. That's like another thing that they could do too, is like understanding when to implement like certain parts of the riff. Like
Yeah.
sometimes riff rock bands just like, let's just keep like stacking riffs,
Yeah.
but like leaving that much space in between, just dennant,
Yeah.
and allowing everybody to kind of fill the space. And that melody is fucking perfect.
I did want to talk about the melody because I was re-listening to it this morning and like where did that come from?
I have no
Like-
idea.
Like it's so like I don't know, cult-ish sounding, like
Yes.
some sort of howl or like ritualistic like scream. I don't even know how to say it. It sounds like an evil like sermon.
Like yeah.
and it's over
Yeah.
nothing. Like
It's over
like,
nothing.
It's a cappella.
I do
Yeah.
not sing very well.
Yeah.
So like I change my chords quickly.
Yes.
So to give the illusion like I am like
Yeah.
doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have that where it's just like it's over, dun-dun, and you have this like amazing catchy melody, and then the lyrics are great too. Like,
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I do love about like this era of Sabbath is, the genre hadn't become, the like caricature of itself that
Yeah.
it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It
He's
was
like-
not about weed.
It's like the height of Vietnam. He's coming out with this like anti-war anthem,
Yes.
Yeah.
and now guys are just like, "What if a robot was made of bongs? Wouldn't that be sick?"
Let's make 5 songs.
Let's
about
call our band
Robot.
Bong Witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our concept album is gonna be Robo Bong
Robo.
9000.
Yeah, it's always as a concept album.
Yeah. So Geezer Butler wrote like a majority of the lyrics for Sabbath.
Oh, did he?
really? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
which is I
Interesting.
didn't know that. I thought like
Yeah.
Ozzy did, but Ozzy is the melody there, and then Geezer is the words.
Oh,
and
dude.
there's like this early video of them performing this song, like in Paris or something, and he's singing different words because it's not done yet.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
1970.
yeah.
When that is one of the best
So-
live performances ever.
It's
Is
so
it the one where
raw.
Ozzy like looks off to the side?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he has
yeah.
like 3 mics
yeah,
stacked
he's
together like this.
They're like
yeah.
glued together.
It's so funny
Yeah.
too watching like Bill Ward has like
a jazz drum set.
he has
Yeah.
a jazz drum set and he has like weird technique. Like
Yes.
he's all like
Yeah.
slumped over. His elbows are wide as hell.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah.
So sick, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's a great point with the hodgepodge because it's like they're coming in with all this different shit going on at the same time.
It's so funny to watch Black Sabbath videos, like live videos through the years. Like there's that one, and then like the next one that comes to mind is the one where he has the
the rainbow,
the rainbow
Technicolor Dreamcoat. Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
the
California
Cal
Jam.
or
Yeah, and
whatever.
he's like jumping up and down, like
Yeah.
doing the Ozzy thing.
cocaine.
It's
Yeah,
cocaine.
100%.
It's cocaine.
Yeah, this is LSD and like
Yes.
bad weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the solo, I mean, still one of the most iconic.
Yes.
And that little like build up they do right before it, like dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
Yeah.
It's so epic when he comes in with the initial.
Yeah.
This riff was like, I remember when I was a kid, I was like, I need to know how to play that. Like, it sounds just, everything about that is fucking perfect. I don't even know how to describe it, but like just the fact, like when they go down and the riff is still going on, something about that is just like, that's like, it's alt rock not just metal, but like it's it feels like a grunge. It kind of inspired like the grunge era as well.
And something to note too is that like this is like a 7 or 8 minute long song.
Yeah.
For me, obviously I'm biased, but like I think you could present this to someone that's never heard it and they'd never get bored.
Yeah.
No, you're allowed to have an 8 minute long song if it's this sick, dude. This fill, and then right into.
This also just,
dude.
I'll never.
This will never not be
It's
sick.
so good.
It's
I'm
kind
getting, dude.
There's kind
My
of just
hairs.
a mystical power about
Yeah.
the band in this song.
And
Yeah,
he
they
doesn't
really-
shred right away. He knows that
No.
this is so sick that I'm going to do 4 like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to shred. And he does an interesting thing where he has like 2 guitars soloing at the same
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
And they'll go in like different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things about Tony Iommi when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, my fingers were like really chubby. My hands are big now, but when I was a kid, it was like
Had some
this
sausages,
hand, but I was
brother.
a small, So like I couldn't solo well at all. Still can't do it. Like I just,
You're more of a riff master.
I'm more of a riff guy. But the thing about Tony was that like he could solo and shred without bending notes or doing anything like crazy or really noodling. It was just more about coming up with really cool parts.
Yeah.
Like I think like this part did more for me as a young guitar player than like hearing like the solo on "You Shook Me All Night Long."
Oh,
or
yeah,
something,
for
you know?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We talked through the whole fucking
I
thing.
know, that's
It's
amazing.
how sick it is.
It's true.
The second track, the title
The
track.
titular.
So the album was supposed to be called War Pigs, and they were in the studio recording it. And the runtime was not long enough. They were like, the producer, Warner Brothers, or whoever that was putting the album out was like, boys, we need like one more. Can you put out can you put something together that's like 2-3 minutes long, something like that? And Tony Iommi's like, yeah, I got this thing. I'm not really that fond of it. Like, whatever. This was like a throwaway song. They were like, fuck this. And if it wasn't for this song, I'm not sure anybody would know who Black Sabbath is.
Yeah. I mean,
You
it's
know?
the single.
And
It's the classic.
and it's the throwaway song, and the studio liked it so much that they were like, okay, it's not called War Pigs anymore, which is why the cover is what it is. It's a soldier waving a sword. That's why it was called War Pigs. And then they changed the name to Paranoid, and the guys in the band are like, well, fuck, the cover doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
anymore. And they're like, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah.
Put it
I
out.
always thought that was
It's
weird.
the cherry pie situation
It's
there.
the cherry
The album's called Paranoid.
Yeah.
I'm Mr. Paranoid.
I'm Paranoid. The guy on the
Yeah.
cover's Mr. Paranoid. That's the classic story of the band reluctantly having to throw together a single and then making their best song.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
like having to be pissed about it for the rest of their career. It's so funny how that works.
I don't
all
know
the
if they
time.
have a tumultuous relationship with the song like the Cherry Pie guy does, but like, yeah. The
I'd
song-
rather be known for Paranoid
Yeah.
than Cherry
Yeah,
Pie, for sure.
Me too.
And this is another song, too. Like, this is like usually... This or Iron Man are the first
Yeah.
ones that you learn when you're
Yeah.
playing guitar. The amount of bad covers I've performed of this,
Oh,
a
yeah.
number of bad covers I've seen played of this.
Yes.
Because what you like, that rhythm section is so good.
Yes. Yeah.
Fucking, my man Geezer's just pumping it, and then just like this, like, every drummer fucks that, like, little, like, gallop
Yeah,
fill he does.
Yeah. We played Paranoid hundreds of times.
It was
and
in the. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think we ever nailed it once. Like, ever.
There's so many words in this song.
There's a
too,
lot of words.
that happen in like 2.5 minutes.
The guitar solo, too, is one of my favorites ever.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know what the fuck effect is on his guitar.
It's
but
so
Probably
thick.
doesn't
it
either.
sounds like it's like an octave maybe, but like even when I had an octave pedal, it never was really right. I don't know. I feel like I'm just saying for this whole time, I'm just like I've been trying to rip off Tony Iommi
And I can't.
failing for my whole life.
This was in the melt rotation for a long time, and we would play it, and I think pretty well, but I would just goose the speed up like to turbo speed
Oh, yeah.
to make it a punk song, which felt way cooler, and it was down a step, and that was
Yeah.
just the sickest thing of all time.
We're on to
One,
Planet
I did
Caravan.
want to say one thing about just lyrically again. I think what Black Sabbath like separates themselves. You know, there's a lot of lore and mysticism in some of their songs, but in this genre completely. But like one of their most famous songs is like talking about like not being able to like have a love.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you just don't hear
Angsty.
that kind of vulnerability in
No.
this type of music
Yeah.
very often.
The weed makes me vulnerable.
It's more about weed now.
Yeah, it is more
Somehow
about
people are like, he's talking about weed.
Yeah.
yeah, Paranoid's about
Paranoid's
dope,
about smoking weed.
It's
and
a
getting
metaphor.
paranoid.
It's about
dude.
getting blunts.
It's like-
Dude,
it's about
that's what it's
getting
about.
Fat blunts. We're on the Planet Caravan right now. Man, I don't
love
even know
this
what to say.
song.
Yeah, I love this song so much.
Such a chill moment in such an intense.
Yeah, never
Yeah.
heard anything like this at the time. Whenever I
Yeah.
first heard the album, and it was the first time where I was like, okay, ballads and slow songs can be cool if they, if you put that weird vocal effect on your voice
Yeah.
and
Chilling through it.
don't
singing
sound like
through
yourself at all.
A
Yeah.
Leslie cabinet, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure.
Gotta say, when I was a kid, this was an immediate skip.
Really?
Oh,
Oh, dude, I
yeah.
loved it as a
No,
kid.
dude.
Yeah.
When I knew Iron Man was waiting for me,
around the corner.
you think I'm gonna sit through this?
Oh.
I've grown to appreciate it more,
Yeah.
but it's still not one of my favorites. I think it is cool. Like it shows a band that even like with the limits of what you had available to you in comparison to today is
Yeah.
like I want to do something sonically interesting.
Yeah.
I don't always just want to be like riffing and banging you over the head.
Yeah.
It's like we want to try something that will show our musicianship.
Yeah. I
That's
love
true.
the little, like, just the guitar or whatever's going on there. I mean, just the way the song works with all the instruments work with each other in this song, I've always loved. Like, that, like, echo thing that's going on, the bongos in the background,
Yeah.
the way the bass is, like, very, like, light and just kind of grooving in the background. Like, Geezer's really the only one doing that much in this
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
But it really, I don't know, something about this really works. And people have like tried to cover this and kind of failed at making it heavier like throughout the years. Every time I've ever heard a cover of the song or seen that someone does a cover of the song,
Just don't.
I don't even bother listening to it. I'm always just like, fuck off. Like, it's just, we
Don't
know
touch
that
it.
you're like, we covered the most mysterious song on
and we made
Paranoid.
it worse.
We made it 10 times worse. That's always what it is.
This is like one of the more tasteful
Oh, yeah,
and
solo.
strangely jazzy guitar
Yes.
solos on
Yeah.
a metal album. Although Ozzy hates the term metal to describe Black Sabbath, apparently, because like people used to call this music heavy metal because like it was so jarring and abrasive that it sounded like a metal factory or people like smashing like
Yeah.
whatever together, and he thinks that's like an insult because
Yeah.
it used to be derogatory.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, I mean, I think the musicality is one of the things that separates Black Sabbath. Like,
Yeah.
I like AC/DC.
yeah.
They're not the most musical band,
No.
if we're
Not
being
at all.
entirely honest.
I mean, we just reviewed their album and said nothing about it. We listened to it the full way
There was
through
a-
and still were like, pretty good.
I like that riff.
Like that cool
Brian's
riff.
screaming.
Yeah.
I wonder why he went deaf.
That was a weird album for us to review first thing after like a month-long break from recording.
Yeah.
At first, I was just like, do we just not have, like, we can't talk about music anymore? Or is there just literally nothing here?
Not a lot of meat on the bone.
no.
If an album can have its largest impact on you when
Yeah.
you're 8, that might not speak to how much depth there is.
Right.
It can still be sick,
Yeah.
but to hold an hour-long conversation,
There's a pretty large
To
distraction
dissect.
looming over us.
That
during
was-
Yeah,
show.
that was also a part of it.
there was a fly in the ointment.
Bobcat Ron.
Bobcat
fucking
Ron really-
Just, it felt like.
He stole the show.
Yeah, it felt like that. He did steal the show. It felt like that.
Shit.
Oh man, I just want to say it felt like that scene in Squid Game, where like you have to like the Red Rover, the
Yeah.
little
Oh,
girl
yeah.
that coming back. Every time you said something, it would just be like, "We actually did that," and you're like, "Oh fuck,
Bobcat.
Bobcat's coming in to destroy me."
Can we talk about the tone, perhaps?
Yeah, let's go back.
No, I'm talking about.
Oh,
to
okay.
Bobcat.
Oh, you're still talking
But we
about
can't talk
Bobcat.
about this. Go back to the opening.
Yeah, I
again.
want to just hear that again.
Because when you're a kid and you know nothing about recording or music really, and you hear this,
Yeah.
And then you hear this.
Yeah.
You're like, they're
It's
from
the-
another world.
It's the coolest thing on earth.
I don't know how they
Yeah.
got a real robot
Yeah.
to
There's
do
a
that.
robot.
But then, like, you pick up a guitar, you find out you can just
Yeah.
go like that, and then you listen close enough, you're like, that's clearly Ozzy.
Yeah.
In like a box fan
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. Yeah, you figure out how to do it pretty quick.
Yeah.
Fans just like messing around on your computer.
Yeah.
Just like you download Audacity and it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the robot effect.
Yeah.
But I mean, just one of the best riffs literally ever.
Yes.
And
I mean,
to sit like some of these riffs are, they'd be really easy to speed up when you play them, but
Yeah.
to like commit to this tempo, like
Yeah.
bum bum,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and especially the drummer,
Yeah.
because like it would be
Yes.
so easy to be like dun
Yeah.
dun 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 dun.
yeah. The one thing that I've always like wondered about Iron Man, and I love Iron Man, but out of like the
This
big
one.
songs from
That's
this
the
album,
riff.
yeah.
I
Out of the
love
big
the-
songs from this album, Iron Man was always my least favorite, and I think it's because Ozzy's such a weird melody, like he does just strange melodies that don't go with the music at all, and Iron Man is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer him when he doesn't go to the riff.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a song later that it's more for me that I'm like, I really don't like the melody here. It's the
We'll
next
get
song.
to that. Oh, okay. Yeah.
But for this one, it's just when I first heard this as a kid,
Yeah.
it's just like this is why doesn't all music be Iron Man all the time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can't even understand it.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying. But what I appreciate about this song more as like the main riff has lost some of its like initial potential, the melody.
Yeah.
The turnaround
The second
is
riff.
so
It's so
Well, the
good.
second riff is, but the jam that they go into after the
yeah.
like doo 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 doo, and they're just like fucking grooving
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
fucking geezers getting it, and they're
Yeah.
fucking just shredding.
Well, there's this meme like a.
I was gonna just bring up
It's like
the
main
meme.
riff, main riff, spicy section.
Yeah.
Main riff.
Yeah.
Boom,
Yeah.
Black Sabbath song.
Yeah, it's like the ending is always like a dance
A
party.
spi-
yeah. It's not like, yeah, it's crazy.
and it always works, brother.
And all of these songs are still so much fun to play on guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're just ever, like, I haven't picked up a guitar in probably, I don't know, 2 years. But if I was going to, the first thing I'd do was probably put on I would run through the garden on this album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just play. I mean, all these riffs are fucking fantastic.
Here we go.
God, it's so sick.
Dude, and then they're just
And
fucking
then-
off.
Yeah, they're off. See ya,
And he just starts shredding immediately. Yeah.
dude. You can and these melodies too. You can just like hum what he's soloing.
Yeah.
which
Oh,
is
yeah.
kind of like, guys want to show their like chops, which kind of can just mean that it sounds incomprehensible.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily going there. He doesn't need to. you
Yeah,
know?
and he's playing the blues scale, but always found a way to like make it feel less bluesy
Yeah.
and more fucking rock.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy when you're in the blues scale to like fall back on some like fucking chop that you're like, who am I Eric Clapton all the
Yeah,
fucking sudden?
I don't have
Yeah.
to be bluesy all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I always like didn't like the blues guys growing up, because it's just it felt like I was going from guitar lesson and then like hearing that stuff and be like, it's just what I learned like in the basics.
Well,
you
it gets
know?
to the
Yeah.
point where you're like, is this the only sound that this fucking
Right.
instrument can make?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because everybody sounds like BB King. when they pick this
Everyone's
goddamn
doing
thing up.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't know how they just decide to bust into those little like sections like that. Like that Iron Man section, it doesn't last for long at all.
No.
Like it seems like it's this bigger part of the song, but no, it's just like a 30-second chunk, and then just
And then this part again.
Sick outro, dude.
He goes into that dive that he does at the beginning too.
yeah, and then it ends on that weird
and then he's
walk
just,
up. Yeah.
The drums sound kind of crazy.
Oh, man,
too.
I
They
forgot
sound really
about-
cheap.
oh so
you know.
dry and
Yeah.
like
I forgot about how sick the fucking ending riff is.
oh yeah.
I mean, that could be the whole episode, just us air guitaring
Yeah,
and
just
humming.
humming shit. Yeah.
We don't have to say anything.
Yeah. Just yeah, and then we start
Dudes
shredding
just
it.
want one thing, and
Yeah,
it's
it is
disgusting.
Oh man, we gotta
Yeah.
make that meme.
We're that.
Yeah, I mean he's just it's the fucking greatest. Should we move on?
Let's move on.
Here's Electric Funeral.
Another one song with a very famous spicy section in it.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Um,
that spicy section is very sick.
It's very sick. This is another one like you were saying with the melody going along with the riff. It's like, come on, Ozzy.
This one
We
works
got-
less
yeah.
for me than Iron Man does. Yeah. Yeah, it feels very like child's
repetitive.
nursery rhyme
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that.
He didn't give it his all on that one, coming up with the melody.
No, the riff is very cool, and like adding in the wah
Yeah.
shows them
Yeah.
like being like, how can we make this sound more evil?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
I always thought when I was I always remembered the like him saying Electric Funeral being like really weird, and then I heard it this morning and it's just Ozzy being like Electric Funeral. And I'm like, that's so goofy.
Yeah.
It is kind of sick,
It's
though.
sick, but I remember it being like an Iron Man
Yeah.
robot part. I was like,
No.
oh, it's got that like weird voice, and then it just
Electric Funeral.
Funeral.
Well, at the same time, though, there's this really high guitar going,
yeah.
and that's kind of distracting. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, what songs like this and Iron Man like kind of inspired future bands to do is just like be like, it's okay to not come up with a vocal melody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where,
Yeah.
let's be honest, you should.
You should.
You should.
You
It
know?
should separate itself from the
Yeah.
riff, because then it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I already figured this
We
shit
already-
out. What's your part?
We're already doing this.
Yeah.
You
If
don't need
your-
to do the same
If your
thing.
EP has 5 songs on it and one follows the guitar,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Not all of them. And
Yeah.
you pick any stoner band out of Spotify, it's like there's a good chance that if there is a singer that's capable of singing and not like chanting like
Yeah.
Sleep or screaming like, High on Fire, whatever. That they're just singing what the guitar is playing.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
fine.
I
whatever.
came up with this great
This
idea.
sick melody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like what you're playing.
This part is so badass, though. Yeah, and lyrically, this one isn't one of my favorites too, because
Yeah.
it's like this is where we're like robot armies.
Yeah,
you know.
This might be the birthplace of the stoner rock.
Yeah, this is
dork
like all the
tropes
shit that I don't like about.
about Black Sabbath.
Yeah, is like now has the whole genre
Yeah.
has become.
Yeah.
It's still a sick ass
Oh, yeah.
song.
Yeah.
I still love it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, would we call it the weakest of this whole? I mean, I would always kind of reserve that for Rat Salad, but
yeah,
yeah,
probably Rat Salad, but
Yeah.
this would be. It's definitely not my favorite.
Maybe number
but
2.
it has become like iconic.
Yeah.
Has
you know,
it?
I feel that
think
way.
so.
But I
Yeah.
feel like almost everything other than Rat Salad kind of has.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's definitely out of like the rockers, it's my least favorite.
I think so too. Electric Funeral. I wish we could still do that in our songs. Dude.
Yeah.
Electric Funeral.
Electric
I
Funeral.
quit my band.
I quit my band. Yeah, can we do that?
Yeah.
We'll put that in the theme. The
That's
theme
our
song.
theme song.
You want to move on?
Sure.
This is my favorite song on the record. Hand of Doom.
So good, dude. It's
Um,
a sleeper song on this album, I think.
Is it a sleeper song?
To me,
I guess
I think to a lot of people because it starts off so
it
light.
is very
like because
light.
you could if you were like listening for just the hitters and you were like,
Yeah.
oh, we have another fucking Planet Caravan situation.
Yeah.
I might skip this, but then like I think it's Ozzy's best vocal performance.
I think so too.
And just like they're doing Quiet Loud
Yeah.
like 30 years before
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
most of it,
true.
or 20 years.
And I just love the way the bass sounds here, like, and then Iommi doing those shrieks like here. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And Bill Ward, I mean, I think this might be the craziest drum performance on the entire album.
You drummed this song.
I
in a
used to
band.
drum this song, in
Yeah.
a band that was born during the pandemic and ended before.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was like a 5-month span of
Yeah.
me being the drummer in a band, and we used to cover Hand of Doom, and it was like my favorite fucking thing in the world
So
to do.
fun, dude.
I was in the best shape ever at that point. It was
Well,
just-
yeah, didn't you guys record up in that room and it was like 100 degrees and everyone had their
yeah.
shirts
I
off?
had to. I was we were recording our EP.
Oh yeah.
And
Vaporware.
we were
That thing's
yeah.
gone.
We were recording our EP, and we were up in Noah's room, and it was
Yeah.
just so. And I mean, I've never recorded drums before, so like I was just fucking up the whole thing, and it was so hot in there. There was like they had to put like fans on me. I think I just got down to my underwear. At one point.
Dude, just
Like,
in
I
your
just-
undies.
I had
Ace
no
Ventura
pants.
style
Yeah.
in the rhino.
coming out of his ass, climbing out of the studio, just like
That was me.
warm.
I think we got it done, but at the
dude.
end it was fucking.
And this part,
Oh, so
fucking
good.
dude, Geezer is just grooving on this part so hard. Yeah, I love Bill Ward's drumming so much,
Yeah.
man.
And I love that Ozzy has a vocal part in like the dance. Like I feel like he doesn't usually have like a good
Sing
vocal part in the dancey
during the
portions.
spice. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And like Bill doesn't really like. He plays a lot of fills, but it doesn't feel like he overplays.
No.
Because he makes like the fills the part of like a
Yeah.
song. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they become as iconic as the beat. And like he can move right into a good shuffle like it's nothing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird that they're one of the only bands like that have ever made like everyone in the band doing completely their own thing all at once sound cohesive.
Yes.
Like even if it's completely they're all playing a different riff and he's just like I'm going to just fill over this entire like
Yeah.
over these 8 measures. I'm just going to do a drum fill. It still sounds like a cool song.
Yeah, and that is kind of the battle, especially like I mean in any band, but I feel like classic rock was like really the era where you had these like legendary rock musicians come
Yeah.
up, and that was always the battle. Like how much of your individual like just I'm gonna play whatever the fuck I want over this, so people know that I'm this kind of drummer,
People
this
know
kind of
Yeah,
guitarist,
I'm the
that's true.
drummer.
but also serve the
This
song.
part's so
Yeah.
sick.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, I
yeah,
forgot
dude.
about this.
This is like thrash.
Yeah. This song's about heroin, right?
Yeah,
Push
Yeah.
the needle in.
Yeah.
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 I mean, you listen to all of these songs and you can see where like, oh, Anthrax got that from
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
or oh, Megadeth got that from that, or
Yeah.
some, you know, like
This is
so
a
forth
very
and so on.
Metallica, Megadeth part right
Big
here.
Yeah,
time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens right after this? Yeah, they go back.
Then after this, they just go back to the chill riff
Yeah,
again.
yeah, and it ends the song that way, right?
Yeah.
You want to move on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hand of Doom.
Rat Salad.
Bill Ward's favorite song.
Yeah,
I think
it's basically just a drum solo.
it's like Moby Dick.
yeah,
You know,
And-
it's the
and
Sabbath
Moby Dick
Moby
was
Dick.
like out the year before.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I could
was
see
it?
Bill Ward be like, Moby Dick, more like suck mine. You know? Bill
More
Ward's
like
got a little
Tiny
something to
Dick,
say.
yeah.
I think this is better than Moby Dick, though.
Whoa. Maybe.
I mean, I think
I never thought about that.
the problem with me with Moby Dick is that is one of the best riffs on the record.
Yeah,
The boom, bum, bum,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, here comes a sick song.
Yeah.
And then it's just like Bonham going like,
yeah.
And then he plays with his hands and shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is
it's
kind of disappointing. You're
Yeah.
like, why couldn't you just turn that riff into a sick song?
Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas like this isn't the best
It's
riff
not a
on the
good
record.
song.
No.
And then, you know, Bill shreds a little harder than Bonham does in the recorded version of Moby Dick.
Yeah.
I think that like the live version of Moby Dick where he plays like for 14 minutes
Yeah.
or whatever.
Try 45.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Imagine just being at that show.
Just like, wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Like, I wonder if like live music fans back then had the same like mindset that like I do now when I go see a band where I'm just like, all right,
I'm sure there was some of that. Like, there's like this idea now because like all these guys have been like canonized and are legends
Yeah.
to be like, man, what I wouldn't give to go back and watch 45 minutes of
45
Bonham.
yeah.
But like, if you had like a kid in 1976 or whatever, and it's like, oh god, the sitter, I gotta get fucking home. He's still playing this. I'm trying to hear Stairway.
They didn't
dude.
play my favorite song yet.
Zeppelin would play 3-hour shows.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I think with this song, they had to just remind everybody that this is a 70s rock record. Because I feel like every fucking album that came out in like from 70 to 75 has some sort of indulgent section for the drummer or the guitar player or the bass player or all of them.
Yeah.
And so, that's why I feel like Rat Salad is just like Sabbath's version of indulgence for this time.
Yeah.
I mean, Sabbath is a band famous for overindulging in general, but that comes kind of after this, So
They deserve it.
They deserve it. Yeah.
Here's last song, Jack the Stripper / Fairies Wear Boots.
This song's so good.
This
So
is
good.
my favorite song.
It's
on the record.
Fucking awesome. Yeah.
The riffs are so sick.
Yeah.
This like weird
It's like intro
rhythm
thing.
Yeah. And then I think if Hand of Doom is not his best performance or is his best performance, I think this is number 2 because like everything, like it's a great melody, but it all builds up to them finally like letting it all go, and he's like the doctor see what he could give me, like, and he's just fucking letting it go so hard in that section.
And that guitar riff at the beginning too, like I said before, like it didn't just they didn't just inspire metal bands in my mind. It feels like such an alternative rock grunge 90s riff to be.
Dude, listen what Geezer's doing.
Yeah,
here.
it's fucking crazy. But like that sounds like Queens of the Stone Age, like Alice in Chains almost to me, more than like Electric Wizard or fucking Bong Reaper.
And then this fucking.
Boy, it's truly dudes only want one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like this almost feels like more of a like the direction that they would go in on Masters a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a little sludgier, a little heavier with the riffs.
Yeah.
There's a argument out there that I was made aware of years ago. I think it was someone in a band was like, what's the best Sabbath record? Like, is it Paranoid or is it fucking Masters or is it Volume 4? And I think it's always Paranoid.
It has to be Paranoid.
It's
dude.
gotta always be Paranoid.
If you roll in cultural significance,
Or maybe the argument was either Volume 4 or Masters, or if it was just like,
I don't
is
think
anything better than Paranoid?
Yeah, I mean, I think Masters has a stake just because some of those songs are fucking. I mean, Children of the Grave is unbelievably sick.
If they took out that one fucking track of the
is that Orchid?
That's my
No, I'm talking about in Children of the Grave.
Oh, yeah.
The fucking drum thing.
Yeah, where they
It
just
makes
like,
me so
rid of
mad.
that.
yeah, loop in, just like going on like
It
this
just
on the
sounds
toms.
like me going like,
Yeah.
Like, stop
yeah.
it.
I'll tell you what, Bill Ward is definitely playing much better on Paranoid than he does on Masters Reality.
Yeah.
There's a couple songs where you're like, they left that in?
yeah,
He fucked that fill up.
And don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, I love. I know you guys are like first 6, but basically, from where Ozzy left, I get down hard with all of those albums. So
Like
I think
Technical
it's like
Ecstasy?
I do get down with them.
Hell yeah,
I do
dude.
get down with them.
I don't really. I feel like I don't. If I'm listening to Sabbath, like at least recently, like it's really nothing ever besides Paranoid Volume 4 or Masters.
I mean,
But
I still like Sabotage and
Sabotage is good.
and
Yeah.
Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Like, dude,
Sabbath-
Sabracadabra.
Sabracadabra. That was like one
National
of my favorite
Acrobat.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fucking kick-ass song.
But
Sabracadabra
I
was
guess
like one of
what
my
I'm
favorite riffs.
To echo your point, Evan, I think when the cocaine enters the picture and the booze and
Snowblind, brother.
Oh,
whenever
yeah.
that enters the picture, I think Bill's performance suffers the
Yeah.
most visibly.
Yeah.
And so much so that, like, in that book that I read, it was, like, talking so much about how his health was drastically impacted, and he was, like, so addicted to booze.
That
like,
sucks.
yeah, I think he's clean now. I mean, it's amazing that all 4 dudes in this band are alive.
It's
incredible.
That does suck that they had the guy from Rage come back instead of him, though, for
I don't
13.
Yeah.
I don't know if Bill could have played.
I don't think he can do it.
Brad
yeah.
Wilk. I forgot Brad Wilk was their drummer. That's kind of cool, though.
It is cool, but yeah, I mean, Bill is probably at some of his sharpest here, and then like that Paris performance that we were talking
my
to,
God.
he's just
So good.
ripping.
Legendary, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, these little ghost notes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so tasteful.
Fucking, yeah, I mean, great. I love this song so much. I love this album.
Yeah.
Great closer.
Is Jack the Stripper? I always didn't really know. So I mean, I know which parts fairies wear boots, but is Jack the Stripper both the intro and when they come back, or is it
so.
just?
Literally no.
The song
I
titles are
always
kind
just-
of ambiguous.
I
on
always
this
just
album.
thought it was fairies wear boots. Like I always considered it fairies wear boots, and then Jack the Stripper was just.
I think it's just you can call it all fairies. With
Yeah.
boots
And this is
call
so
it a
sick.
day.
Like he finally sings over
Yeah.
when they're going loud, and this performance is so good.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's interesting knowing the trajectory of the band. Like they're ending their biggest album being like, yeah, don't smoke a
Don't
ton
smoke.
of weed and drop acid all the time. And like they're like,
then
that
look what
doctor's an
happened.
Yeah.
idiot.
It's weed. The album's about weed and how it's good.
Sweet Leaf, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
that's true.
right when they go like,
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
God.
weed. What do you fellas say? Is it CA time?
Let's do the CA.
time.
Who wants to go first? JJ, I feel like
Sure.
you're the Sabbath head.
Yeah, I am the Sabbath head. Like I said at the beginning, I literally have part of the artwork from this album on inked into my body, and that's like very symbolic for how important this album is to me, and like the music that I play, the shit I really get down with now. I mean, I think I said it in the last episode or one of the year recap episodes. Like, I've really fallen back in love with like a lot of old music recently. Like I still listen to the new stuff, obviously, for the pod and all that kind of stuff, but I just like so resonate with the Sabbath and the Zeppelin and even the more obscure shit that's going on, and the impact of this music and like what it does, even the prior album and so forth and so on, is like there's just something like the ultimate itch that can be scratched for me is heavy ass fucking guitars and a melody that's basically a pop melody that you can sing. And Sabbath encapsulates that to a T, and there's no one that's done it better, and there's no one that ever will. This is gonna sound crazy, but if I'm gonna give any album a 10, it's going to be Paranoid, because and that's it. So I'm going to give Paranoid an IQMB 10.
Oh yeah.
I can appreciate that. I thought you were going to hit us with a Bobcat Ron. This is
7-7.
going to sound crazy.
No, but I just like 10s are very sought
Rat
after.
salad sucked.
No, it's like it would feel fucked up, and like
Yeah,
what's my
yeah.
standard if I'm not giving Paranoid a 10?
Right.
You know what I'm
100%,
saying?
yeah.
So that's the magnum opus
Yeah.
for me. It's a 10.
Honestly, I completely agree, and I'm also gonna give it a 10. This album is like, I don't even know if I have to say anything else besides this is still one album where, like, when I was a kid, it was the greatest thing on earth, and when I'm a 30-year-old man, it's still like, this is still the greatest album on earth. Like, there's still, in terms of just rock and metal, like, people really associate Black Sabbath with heavy metal, like we said, but it's so much more than that to me. Like, I think some of these riffs inspired, like, a lot of different genres of rock music. It's the first time, I've really ever heard guitar playing be done, like be evil and dark and just, like, weird. Instead of like feeling like it could be soundtracking a beer commercial. Like, I feel like Black Sabbath is like one of the only classic bands that never, like, Chevrolet is still like, I don't know.
Yeah. Every once in a while you hear like Iron Man in like a movie like Iron Man,
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
or something
yeah.
like that. But it's when they need it to kick ass, because
Yeah.
like the Iron Man that Ozzy describes is way cooler than Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
He's like
Yeah.
a guy that gets like fucking like,
He's
a
a rich guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I want this evil robot that out for vengeance,
Right.
not like a quipping like billionaire.
But it is cool in those Avengers movies. Like it's always like when they put on Iron Man in those movies, I'm like, okay.
But
hell
Iron
yeah.
Man, the
We're
song
gonna
is
kick
doing
ass.
the heavy lifting.
The song does all the lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just it's still good. I've never gotten sick of this album ever in my entire life. It's really crazy. I've never had an album do that. Maybe ever. Maybe my whole life. Never had
Abbey
one
Road's
that.
the only other one for me, and I'm a
Abbey
huge
Road's up
Beatles
there.
guy.
Yeah, I
know you're not-
for me.
Yeah.
Not Abbey Road. This is still it's only Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of agree with you where it's just like if Paranoid is not a 10, then
What is?
then what's a 10?
Yeah.
So I have to give it that. And even those like little peaks and valleys like Electric Funeral and Rat Salad, like Bobcat Ron said, you can't always be hard. You have to. You have
you need the
to.
ebbs and flows. You got to call a doctor.
You gotta call
Tell
a
you what-
doctor. Yeah.
Blue chewing,
Blue chew.
riffing is all that you do.
Blue chewing, potting is all that you do.
All right, so on to me. So I have given out a 10 before. I gave it to the.
I wasn't
the-
sure. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gave it to the Blue album.
You did.
And I gave the 10 based on like personal enjoyment and just construction. Like I look at that fucking album and it's just like a perfect sphere. I don't
Yeah.
know what he could have changed or did better. So looking at this album, I don't exactly feel the same way. It's like the construction is not as perfect because you have something like Rat Salad on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like Planet Caravan as much as like other people do,
yeah.
but I'm still giving it a 10 because I feel very similar to the way that you do, in that like I don't know, most. I think I've said this analogy on the show before, but like most music in your life is like gum. You chew it for a while, it's
Yeah.
the greatest thing, and then the flavor's gone. You go whatever.
Yeah.
The Sabbath's not that way, and like most other classic rock has been that way. It's like the Beatles, it's Sabbath. They're the only two that like I can come back to consistently and be like, "Damn, this shit's sick."
Maybe Zeppelin 2.
I
for
feel
me,
like
too.
Zeppelin has a couple in there. Like Zeppelin 3, I'm always like,
Yeah.
God, this is so fucking awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some of the old Dylan shit for that way for me. But I think like what it makes up in like the lack of like perfection and construction, like a band like Weezer is trotting over like those trails were there, like that
Yes.
type of pop songwriting, like. You can study it, you can become a nerd about it, and like figure it out like it's a scientific formula. These guys were in the lab figuring out a
Yeah.
type of music that's never been made before. So you have these like four dudes who are just like riffing, writing songs, like trying to figure it out, and you write this much fucking like iconic shit
Yeah.
on one album.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So it's like I can forgive a Rat Salad.
Mm-hmm.
I can like the fact that I don't like Planet Caravan or Electric Funeral as much as some other people might do.
Mm-hmm.
It's still just unbelievably sick.
Yeah.
And I have to respect like the like wake that these dudes left, like the ripple effect of rock and roll
Mm-hmm.
that an album like this did. If you don't give Paranoid a 10, 10s
Yeah.
are meaningless.
Yes.
Yeah. I could even say that like Black Sabbath like is probably maybe the most influential rock band maybe of all time if you don't count the Beatles because they were
Yeah.
they weren't
Yes.
always hard all the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think you still have to call the Beatles because they kind of created like a form of pop music that we're still kind of regurgitating.
Yeah.
to
well,
a certain
I'm
degree.
just I think the Beatles, yeah, but I'm talking about it specifically with like
Rock.
and
Yes.
like guitar
And heavy
bands.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Sabbath is the most influential. Like you got Greta Van Fleet with Zeppelin, but people are forgetting how many bong wizards and electric wizards
Yeah.
and witch doctors are out. Like there is a like country
Yeah.
of stoner metal bands who are just like we are also Black Sabbath.
Well, and then
And, like-
even on like a like I think punk musicians would even get down with Sabbath and not
Yeah.
get down with Zeppelin.
Yes.
Because they're like, there is an economy to this music. Even though
Yeah.
they are going for it musician-wise, it still feels lean and mean, whereas like some of the Zeppelin shit is like,
Indulgent.
Yes.
mandolin, we're going...
Or
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah. We have an 11-minute song that probably shouldn't be an 11 minutes.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
whereas like 8 minutes on War Pigs, you're like, it needs
It needs, yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
might even need more. I don't know.
And also, too, these are you're talking about the dudes in Sabbath at the time they're making this, like late 60s, comes out in 70. This is 4 dudes with like no fucking money.
Yeah.
That are from the dregs of the, like, you know, the UK or Britain or whatever you would call it at the time, that are just paving their way. Like Ozzy was like basically a criminal.
Yeah.
You know, he was like a thief, and you know,
He was like a
arrested
crazy. He was like the town crazy
loon.
person.
Yeah. And
Which is
and that kind of
hilarious.
shit. And
We need that guy in our
We
band,
need to
dude.
get that guy to be our singer.
Thank God they didn't call themselves Earth too. That
Oh,
was
yeah,
the
yeah,
first.
they're
called
sucked, dude.
Earth. Yeah.
Black Sabbath is
Yeah.
the sickest band name
So
of
good.
all time.
They
So
took
good.
the best one right away.
They
Yeah.
really
They were like,
They're
never again.
Yeah.
So, anyways, just the fact that like you were making the point with Weezer, like they were in the lab, and I don't know where they were. I can't speak to where they were financially at the time and stuff like that. But like these guys were, you know, really scratching for it, and they came up with something completely original and
Yeah.
new, and that like never happens.
Oh yeah,
You know?
I mean, if Black Sabbath doesn't work out, they're probably under a train car somewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, Ozzy's dead. They were
Yeah.
arrested.
Or in jail
Yeah.
for the rest of his life.
You ever hear the story about Ozzy? Like I watched so many documentaries that like, oh yeah, we like found Ozzy like walking a shoe like it was a dog or something.
Yeah.
Did you hear
So fucked up. I read his book too, and Ozzy's book is one of the best like memoirs I've ever read in my life. It's so interesting.
I love Ozzy.
The shit
so
that
much.
he's went through, and like he is legitimately nuts, but like it's being told from the perspective of him being an old guy that can't do smack anymore and
Yeah.
whatever. And it's very refreshing to be like, yeah, I was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And now I'm just old and can't do it anymore.
I love him so much. When he dies, it's gonna be the worst day
Oh,
ever.
dude.
He's
Yeah.
a cultural he was. I mean, he's a singer of Black Sabbath, and then he became like a reality TV star.
Yeah, that's Sharon, dude.
And like
Yeah.
he would just like wander around
Yeah.
his own house like this, just like, what the fuck is
Just
going on?
not speaking.
Someone
English.
took my biz
Yeah.
from my room.
He's just groaning, Ugh! Just on camera.
The funniest scene, we don't have to. The funniest scene is when he like takes the remote and the TV is just like being fucked
Yeah.
up. And he's so startled by it.
Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
The fuck is that?
he's just walking around the house like, I pissed myself, and they're like, oh, Ozzy.
He's just
Like that
so
was the
fucked
greatest show. on
It
earth.
was
This is
amazing.
insane.
Oh my god.
But that's that. I think.
What's
people,
that? That's a 10.
It's
That's
a 10. It's a perfect. It's another exact.
That is perhaps the most
the
exact.
most exact. Hell
10
yeah,
for
yeah.
hell yeah for paranoid.
That's scientific. That's airtight.
It's a scientific exact. Hell yeah.
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 And that's maybe our first ever 10 on the show.
First ever unanimous 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the Blue album wasn't a
No.
10. I
No.
think it was got close, but
close.
yeah, yeah, the first ever 10 on the show. It's just you know,
Seems
if it's
right.
not an album from however many years ago, it's we ain't giving it a 10.
Oh, dude. Was it 55 years old?
55 years old? That's insane.
Unbelievable. The fact that it has any impact.
I know.
Still.
Yeah. Out of this world. It's Paranoid, Black Sabbath. Tell us what you think of the album. Do you think it's a 10? Do you think any album could be a 10 if this one could be a 10? So let us know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on...
We got about a week and a half.
We got a
left
week
on
and a half
TikTok.
left on TikTok.
So get on there.
Get your sleep token comments in now.
Unless that
you
Shark
want-
Tank guy buys it.
Unless the Shark Tank guy. I didn't
Mr.
even hear about
Wonderful?
that.
Yeah, Mr. Wonderful might buy it.
Big
I didn't hear
Wonderful's
about
in
this.
the in the
So.
building, dude.
He's like, I'm gonna buy it for $20 billion.
I want a quarter for every TikTok that's ever made. Okay, that's my deal.
Here's my
Take it or leave
deal.
it.
No more TikTok slander, and I get a quarter every time somebody does anything.
I get a quarter every time someone makes a TikTok. Okay, I actually get $3 every
That
time.
would be great, the
someone-
Shark Tank episode. So my idea is it's Chinese spyware that's taking all U.S. citizens' information. It's destroying the brains of our children. I want $11 billion.
He's just like, I want $10 every time anyone makes one of these things. Okay, anytime anyone's ever on it, I want $10. He's just so rich.
An incomprehensible
He's just-
number.
He's incomprehensibly rich.
And we have to spend $10
Yeah.
every time we
Every time
post
we
a clip
post
that gets
anything.
13 likes. It's
Yeah,
money
it-
well spent.
Look, we got to hand it to Kevin O'Leary for saving us
Yeah.
in the last hour of need. But yeah, go follow us on TikTok if you want. If you want to say something about the Sleep Token video, do it now.
Get it in.
Or forever hold your peace. And subscribe on Patreon. Watch that Bobcat Ron episode where we talk about Back in Black for
You
an
won't
hour.
regret it.
You won't regret it. It's one of my favorite things we've ever done, and
Yeah.
it's also the most insane thing we've ever done.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
He'll be back though. Bobcat
He'll
will
be back, and probably more of a, well, he might understand why he got paywalled.
Perhaps if he reins it in a little bit, maybe maybe he'll make an appearance on the YouTube channel.
Can't quite talk about groupies like you
Yeah,
did.
Yeah.
no,
Just gonna leave it there.
yeah. I'm hoping he understands why he got paywalled,
Yeah.
and he'll come back and be a little bit less. But I still want him to bring that edge.
Yeah.
it was
He's
pretty
a good
fucking
dude,
funny.
though.
That
You
Bobcat
know, Bob-
edge.
he's
That's
a-
the problem with the Bobcat. You bring him in, his claws are
You're
coming
gonna
out.
get scratched. Yeah. But anyways, thanks for watching the show. Thanks for being here in 2025. We got changes coming. I think.
We'll see.
We'll see about
Gotta
it.
get a tape measure
We're,
out
you know,
here whether these
we
changes.
we have
will work.
plans to change some things about the show, so be ready for that. Thanks everyone for watching. It's I Quit My Band. Goodbye.